welcome to another podcast today. My interview with Bruno Brooks, episode 17 of the podcast radio show today here on YouTube, and it will be uploaded later on tonight, so yeah, keep your eyes up and ears peeled for that one. Hope you're all well. Hope you're keeping safe. Here's my interview with Bruno Brooks here on YouTube. So yeah, here it is. Hello everyone. Welcome to another podcast. It's 2021. We are very nearly out of lockdown. I'd like to welcome you back to the Ben Lister podcast radio show here on Hull Kingston Radio 107.4 FM. And I have had so many different guests from the world of radio over the last 16 episodes, and episode 16 is no different. He's the host of the radio chart show of the Radio 1 chart show, and he's a legend and a creator of all different radio stations. It's, of course, Mr. Bruno Brooks. Hello, Bruno. Welcome along. How are you today?
I'm very well, Ben. Yes, very well indeed. Thank you. And thanks for the invite to have a chat.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure to have you. If you have a Tony Blackburn story for us later on, we can include that.
Well, there are many stories about all of us, I think, and particularly roadshow stories. Smiley Miley has been very much involved with some of the great things and strange and very happy and funny things that have happened over the years. So there's plenty to talk about.
Brilliant. 5 questions about your broadcast career here today. You ready to rumble in the jungle?
I'm ready to rumble in the jungle.
Okay, sir, let's go for it. Question 1. Where did you start your broadcast career?
Well, I started my broadcast career with the BBC, local BBC radio in Radio Stoke. That's where I'm from, Stoke-on-Trent. Well, actually, I'm from Newcastle-under-Lyme, which sort of borders Stoke and the 5 towns of Stoke-on-Trent. And they were very good to me because, and I had a great opportunity really to get into local radio because in Hanley, which is part of Stoke-on-Trent, there is a legendary Victorian hall there called Victoria Hall. And all the major bands, whether they were rock bands, punk bands, soul bands, chart bands, they used to play there. It was very much part of the tour list at the Victoria Hall. And I was doing all sorts of work of my own with my father. We were promoting town halls as a disco, but more on that later. In the meantime, I was trying to get into radio by doing interviews, recording interviews with all of these big stars, which was a feature at the Victoria Hall. And it meant that once I'd done the interview, often it was quite late at night, once the band had come off stage and they'd had a few drinks beforehand and afterwards, I'd probably interview some of these bands at 11 o'clock at night, then getting to the Radio Stoke studios, clearly very empty at that time of the day, on reel-to-reel, editing these interviews, which had to be no longer than 2 to 3 minutes to go into the breakfast show the next day. And I was left to my own devices. And that's how I started to really make a name at Radio Stoke. And then I was given my own show. And that's quite an interesting story because they gave me a slot to sort of create and present a teenage show every Sunday, and then one day I got a phone call in my flat, and it was the controller of BBC Radio Stoke, John Getgood, and he said, "Bruno, our afternoon presenter is not very well, and would you like to present his show? Main weekday show in the afternoon." It was my big chance, and I said yes. And then eventually I took over that show, and it kind of all went from there.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a great start to your career.
Absolutely. It's the opportunity that I was waiting for. I think that it's the same with everybody who is out to try and create an elongated career and start from the, from the beginning. It was the first big opportunity I had, and I took it, and never looked back.
Question 2: who were your inspirations in radio when you were starting out in radio?
Well, I was first interested in radio really about 14 years of age, and there were two particular DJs at Radio 1 at the time, which was my favourite station. That was Tony Blackburn, and sunny Tony in the morning, couldn't go wrong, always made me feel great, loads of energy, played the great songs, few odd jokes, some I laughed, some I didn't. But Tony Blackburn is a legend. He really is, and it's incredible that he is still providing great radio for radio stations all of these many years later. And then the other one is Emperor Roscoe. Roscoe was almost too much of an influence to me when I was younger, because he was American. He was probably the most famous DJ in America, other than a guy called Wolfman Jack. And he released his own albums, and I used to buy these albums, and he'd done a deal with Atlantic Records, and so all the tracks on the albums were on the Atlantic label, but he was the DJ in between. And he go, "Mercy me, it's twine time with fun on your mind. Gonna ask you to slip and slide and let it rise and cut to the strut, make your back crack and your liver quiver. Coming up, Winston Pickett." That's kind of stuff. And he's just incredible. I hadn't got a clue what it meant, what he was saying. I think I do now, but at that age I didn't.
And also, I forgot to mention as well, Mr. Glastonbury, John Peel.
Well, John Peel, he was very alternative in his music, and it wasn't my bag. I was more on the club, disco, top 40 side. But the guy's a legend. He was incredible. So much knowledge, and I don't think anyone really could have replaced him as to what he did and what he was known for. Amazing.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever been to the Glastonbury before.
No, I haven't. I've never actually been to a Glastonbury festival.
Wow.
Yeah.
Question 3: what's your favourite part about being a broadcaster on the radio?
I think all of us, we find out very quickly as to whether we are effective communicators, even if it's just between yourself and having a chat with somebody else. Salesmen, for instance, are very good communicators by nature. And in some respects, I think there's a little bit in all presenters of a salesman, because especially in commercial radio to a certain extent, at the end of the day, it speaks for what it is. But having said that, in commercial radio, presenters now are concentrating on the music and making sure that ads and promotions are aired, and it's very much part of a format. I'm really a bit of a salesman, and I think that came through in the top 40. I wanted to tease new entries and really excel when it came to the importance of the chart, but also the bands and the artists within that chart.
What track reminds you of the top 40?
One track, that's got to be really difficult, and it really is. At the end of the day, it's right to remember all music that reached the top 40, because all of those songs had a degree of success, and in some cases, songs became legendary because of their #1 status. But there are so many. So to me, they were all important, really. All songs in the top 40.
Yeah, it's brilliant that they're all different in their own way.
Well, they all deserve to be there because clearly radio are playing these songs. They've picked up on them, new artists, new songs, new genres,
Yeah.
and then they become popular by way that people buy those songs, buy the albums, the charts, um, make it obvious as to how well those songs are doing, and you know that's the way it works, as you know.
Yeah, it's brilliant that, and it also shows the different album records. Like it's nowadays, like it's breaking records, lots of different songs and lots of different radio presenters and the variety of different radio stations, because there's a lot more radio stations out there at the moment.
More than ever, yeah. A
Yeah,
lot of
and
radio stations are formatted now in a very
yeah,
different way than they were all those years ago. They format them specifically for audience demographics and um, hopefully set out and achieve a very successful commercial business. That's effectively what it is.
yeah. Question 4. What's your greatest achievement in your broadcast career?
Signing my contract with Radio 1. My first contract.
Why
Uh,
not?
no. Well, I consider myself very lucky because I was only young. I was only 24 years of age, and I'd had an opportunity to sit in for one of the presenters in the early evening radio as Radio 1 went on the tour to search for local talent around the UK, and they tied that in with the local radio stations. In my case, it was Radio Stoke. And, you know, I suppose that was the first time I was aired on Radio 1 without being a contracted presenter. But undoubtedly, I still believe it's my greatest achievement in radio, in winning that contract and joining the station at 24 years of age.
And you also, I read, came back in 2007 for the 40th anniversary.
Well, I don't remember much of that, but yes, I did. There was a particular event, and all the faces were there, and it was great, great day.
Yeah, brilliant. And yeah, because the chart show you presented on 2 stints as well.
I did. There was a bit of a gap in between. I'm not sure who it was. I can't remember.
I think it was Mark Goodyear.
I think it was. Yeah. Mark's a good top 40 host.
Yeah, and so are you. And there was a lot of good presenters out there, and I like it because I was told a lot of stories by a lot of people that you used to have a radio station on the Sky channel.
Well, you're taking me back now. That was after I left Radio 1. I went and started a kind of a more of a commercial career, a business career. And I think it was in 1999, I think, I started what was undoubtedly the first live radio station on the internet with live presenters 7 days a week. There were channels on the internet, but they were effectively recorded channels, music streams, and that's fine. But this was very interactive, and also all the presenters, you know, were generally quite well known, whether it be TV or radio. And we started this at a studio which I built in Mayfair, of all places. The reason for that is because we raised quite a lot of money, and I wanted people, investors, to be able to see it for themselves, and you know, literally walk not so far away from their office to come and join us and have a look at what was going on. And it created a lot of noise. And then, you know, from there I started to build the business and also create radio stations for big brands like Lloyd's Pharmacy, you know, something like 1,400 pharmacies around the UK, a huge audience, and also a very big working community, a large staff, and it was a great way to be able to provide them a radio station and communicate all the important things for consumers and entertain consumers, but also staff, and in quiet periods, even some learning for staff and interaction between stores, to create effectively a community via radio. And I launched many stations for different brands around the UK, many of which still have and enjoy their radio stations. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were one of the other people as well who inspired me to go into radio.
What is it then, Ben, that inspired you? Was it the top 40 or
your top 40 fast-paced style? And Chris Marsden said this in his podcast. He likes your top 40 fast-paced.
Yeah. Well,
I like the fast-paced style.
Yeah, well, I the way I saw it is that, if I wasn't excited about, reading out the top 40 and playing the records of the songs, then I shouldn't have been doing it. And I was naturally very excited about it. It's what I get up for. I get up for stuff like that. But also, I think it's, these acts, these bands, these songs, if they're in the chart, they should be celebrated. There's a question of, well, okay, here it is, and this is a new entry at 16, blah, blah, blah. It's not enough. This is, these 40 songs make up very much part of the UK culture every single week, and they make a lot of difference. People obviously like them. To sell them, make them bigger, celebrate how good they are, make it amazing. It's not just a list. It's an event. Yeah?
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. And final question on my list. What advice would you give to young aspiring broadcasters who are starting out and who are listening today here on Hull Kingston Radio 107.4 FM?
And hello to all of you. Well, if it is that you want to get into radio, the first thing is that you understand the brand that you're going to be working for. The audience is critical. Why are they listening? Why are they tuned into that brand? And why should you be part of that? Well, I would say the main reason is you understand that everything about the brand, the audience, and even better if you love the music. And the thing I would do is to promote yourself as much as you can using the internet and get involved with different radio communities. And then it's a question of time, making demos, being heard, meeting people, showing that you've got a lot of energy and something just that little bit different. If you feel that you're original and there's no one like you and no voice like you, but you're a great presenter and you fit into different radio brands, just keep going with that, because that's the focus that you need.
Brilliant. That's it for today. Thank you very much for joining me, Bruno.
It's a pleasure. I'd talk a lot more, but you're going.
Well, it's all for radio, innit, this show, so I've had lots of legends.
Well, it's great to talk to you, Ben, and I'll certainly be listening.
Hope you enjoyed that interview. Everyone, please give it up for the legendary Radio 1 iconic Mr. Chart Show, Bruno Brooks. Thank you very much for listening, and that's a wrap. That was my interview with the legendary Bruno Brooks from the radio and Radio 1. Hope you really enjoyed it. Hope it filled a gap. Don't forget to like, subscribe, dislike if you didn't like it, comment if you... Just be honest with me. Comment would be much appreciated. Thank you very much for watching. And my Rob Charles interview will be tried to be uploaded later on tonight, but I'm interviewing a few people tomorrow, so I'll try and get them uploaded as well into the Beale and Friends collection. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, and that's a wrap.